I ordered a husband, not an armed cowboy, she yelled. Until the truth at the train station, Clara Jensen had always believed in being practical. She was a woman who planned her life carefully, kept a neat home, and organized her days down to the smallest detail. At 32, she had a steady job as a librarian in a quiet town, lived in a cozy apartment filled with books and plants, and enjoyed routines that gave her life structure. Yet there was one part of her life that she couldn't seem to organize no matter how hard she tried: her love life. She had tried dating apps, blind dates set up by friends, and even attending social events where single people mingled. Each attempt had ended in disappointment. Some men were dishonest, others careless, and a few simply didn't share the same values. Clara had grown tired of the awkward small talk, the forced smiles, and the inevitable letdowns. She wanted someone dependable, someone who made sense, someone who fit the life she had built for herself. So when her friend Elise mentioned a matchmaking service that promised to find the perfect partner, based on detailed personality profiles and careful analysis, Clara was skeptical. She didn't believe in fate or destiny. She believed in research, logic, and data. Still, something about the idea of a carefully chosen match appealed to her tired heart. Perhaps it was worth one more try. After filling out the extensive questionnaire, listing her likes, dislikes, values, and lifestyle preferences, Clara waited. The days crawled by slowly, filled with her usual routines of work, books, and occasional walks in the park. She tried not to get her hopes up, reminding herself that most of these services often promised more than they could deliver. Then, one crisp autumn morning, Clara received a message that her ideal match had been found. The name on the message was Wyatt McAllister. Her heart beat a little faster, not from excitement, but from nerves. She opened the detailed profile and quickly scanned it. He was described as independent, hardworking, and family-oriented. The profile mentioned hobbies like horseback riding, volunteering, and enjoying quiet evenings at home. Clara thought, "This seems manageable. I can picture this." The day of their meeting arrived, and Clara found herself nervously adjusting her scarf and smoothing the wrinkles in her coat as she waited at the doorstep. Her mind raced through the list of expectations she had built in her head. Calm, tidy, polite, someone who respected her routines. She imagined a man in neat clothing, perhaps a little reserved, with a gentle smile and soft manners. Then a truck rumbled down the street, kicking up a small cloud of dust. Clara's heart skipped a beat as she saw a man step out, tall and broad-shouldered, with rugged boots, a weathered hat, and a belt that seemed to hold not just a wallet but a gleaming six-shooter. His face was tanned from the sun, with lines that hinted at a life spent outdoors, and his eyes were sharp, scanning the street with quiet confidence. Clara froze. She blinked, unsure if she was seeing what she thought she was seeing. No, this can't be right," she muttered to herself. Wyatt approached her with a polite nod, his voice calm but friendly. "Hi, Clara, I'm Wyatt," he said, tipping his hat slightly. Clara opened her mouth, ready to demand an explanation, but instead a sharp, incredulous yell escaped her. "I ordered a husband, not an armed cowboy." Wyatt's eyebrows rose in surprise. He took a careful step back, trying not to appear threatening. "Armed cowboy?" he asked, his voice steady but confused. Clara's hands flailed slightly, her mind racing. "Yes, you have a gun belt, and your boots, and your hat. This isn't what I signed up for." "I expected someone normal." Her voice trembled, partly with shock and partly with disbelief. Wyatt, realizing that the situation was far from ordinary, chuckled softly. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," he said calmly. "I just came from a cattle auction." "I didn't know this would be a problem." Clara glared at him, her pulse racing. She wanted to scream, to run, to slam the door, but she also wanted to understand how the matchmaking service could have made such a mistake. She waved her hands in frustration. "A misunderstanding. My friend said you were someone quiet, gentle, normal, not this. What are you doing here?" Wyatt held up his hands in a gesture of peace. "I promise I'm harmless. I work on a ranch, yes, but I'm also a volunteer at the local school and take care of my younger sister." "I wasn't trying to intimidate you." Clara narrowed her eyes, studying him. He looked serious, honest, and yet utterly foreign to the life she had imagined sharing with a partner. Her mind raced through all the possible scenarios. What if he was reckless? What if he expected her to live on a ranch? What if she had made a terrible mistake? I need a minute," she said, stepping back into her apartment. She closed the door just enough to keep him out but not completely shut, her thoughts spinning. She paced, ran her fingers through her hair and muttered to herself. This cannot be happening. He doesn't belong in my life. This is not practical. This is chaos. Meanwhile, Wyatt stood on the doorstep, adjusting his hat, trying to remain calm. He could see that Clara was flustered, and he had no intention of forcing anything. He wasn't here to scare her. He was here because someone had told him she was a good match, and he was willing to prove that he could be more than what she expected. Clara spent the next hour going through her apartment trying to calm herself. She brewed tea, paced around the living room, and peeked through the window to see Wyatt still standing outside. She shook her head in disbelief. How could a single person be so intense? Finally, summoning what little courage she had left, she opened the door slightly. "Okay, I'll listen," she said cautiously, keeping her distance. "But if you touch my books or my furniture or anything else in my apartment, I will not hesitate." Wyatt smiled gently, taking no offense. "I wouldn't dream of it," he replied. "I just want to talk if that's okay." Clara nodded reluctantly, gesturing for him to enter. The moment he stepped inside, she noticed small things that softened her tension. His boots were dusty but clean, he had a quiet presence, and there was a calmness in the way he moved. He didn't immediately try to charm her or make jokes. He simply sat, waiting for her to speak. "You understand," Clara began, "that I expected someone ordinary, someone predictable. I didn't expect a cowboy who looks like he just rode in from the Wild West." Wyatt chuckled softly. "I get it. You expected someone like the profiles you usually see on dating apps. Someone quiet, neat, predictable. But profiles can't capture everything, can they?" Clara tilted her head, intrigued despite herself. There was something genuine in his voice, something that made her pause and reconsider her initial anger. Yet she wasn't ready to forgive her own nerves or the matchmaking service's mistakes. "Look," she said, "I don't even know if I should trust this." "How did the service think you were suitable for me?" Wyatt leaned forward slightly, his hands folded. "They said we had similar values, goals, and outlooks on life. Maybe they were right, maybe they were, but I'm willing to find out." Clara blinked, unsure whether to laugh, sigh, or demand more answers. She decided to test him. "All right, Mr. Cowboy, tell me something about yourself that doesn't involve boots, horses, or guns. Something that makes you normal." Wyatt smiled, thinking carefully. "Well, I love reading history books. I write letters to my grandmother every week. And I bake cookies on Sundays, though I'm not very good at it." Clara's lips twitched. The image of a rugged cowboy baking cookies seemed almost comical, yet it sparked a tiny flicker of curiosity. Maybe she had judged him too quickly. Maybe there was more beneath the surface than the dust, boots, and six-shooter belt. The rest of the morning passed with cautious conversation. Clara asked about his family, his childhood, and his work. Wyatt listened and shared, but he never tried to impress her with bravado. By the time he left, Clara still wasn't sure about him, but she was less certain of her hatred than she had been earlier. After he walked away, she sank into her armchair, sipping her tea and trying to make sense of everything. Her life had been predictable, safe, and organized, yet somehow this unexpected cowboy had shaken her sense of order. And despite her insistence that she wanted normal, part of her wondered if maybe, just maybe, normal wasn't what she really needed. And with that thought, Clara realized that life sometimes had a way of delivering surprises, whether you wanted them or not. Clara couldn't stop thinking about Wyatt after that first unexpected encounter. Her mind kept replaying the image of him, tall, rugged, and yet strangely gentle when he spoke of his family or the simple joys of baking cookies. She tried to push the thoughts away, telling herself that it was foolish to consider someone so wildly different from the life she had carefully built. But curiosity, like a quiet whisper, refused to be silenced. Over the next few days, Clara busied herself with her usual routines. She spent long hours at the library, arranging books, helping visitors, and getting lost in the stories of characters who had far fewer surprises in their lives than she did. She told herself she was too busy to think about romance. Yet whenever she paused, her mind wandered back to Wyatt and the shock of seeing him on her doorstep. Meanwhile, Wyatt didn't give up either. He understood Clara's caution and respected her need for space. He didn't call repeatedly or show up uninvited. Instead, he left small gestures that were careful, kind, and thoughtful. A single wildflower on her doorstep, a note with a quote from one of her favorite books, a loaf of bread with a tiny sticky note, "Baked this on Sunday." Not perfect, but made with care. At first, Clara wanted to ignore these gestures, but each one made her heart soften bit by bit. She realized that he wasn't trying to impress her with flashy moves or wild stunts. He was quietly showing her who he was. And slowly her walls began to lower. One afternoon, as she walked home from work, Clara noticed Wyatt across the street, carrying groceries with a careful stride. He waved politely, and she hesitated, unsure whether to respond. But curiosity won over caution. She waved back, a small smile creeping onto her face despite herself. Wyatt approached, setting the bags down on a bench nearby. "Hello, Clara," he said gently. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by. I just thought I'd help carry these to your building." Clara shook her head, feeling a mix of surprise and amusement. "I can manage, thank you, but I appreciate the thought." They walked together for a few minutes, speaking cautiously at first, sharing small details about their days. Clara learned that Wyatt's mornings started early, often before sunrise, helping with ranch chores. His evenings were quieter, spent reading, writing letters to his grandmother, or taking his younger sister to her music lessons. There was a calmness in the way he described his life, a groundedness that surprised her. "What about your hobbies?" Clara asked. "Do you have anything that's not ranch-related?" Wyatt chuckled. "I told you about the cookies, did I?" Clara laughed, the sound light and unexpected. "Yes, the cookies, but surely there's more. Reading, volunteering, what else?" "I like sketching sometimes," Wyatt admitted, scratching the back of his neck. "Mostly landscapes, nothing fancy. Just capturing what I see when I take long walks. It helps me clear my mind." Clara's interest grew. She pictured him sitting quietly on a fence, sketchbook in hand, the sun setting behind the hills. It was a stark contrast to the wild image she had first imagined, a cowboy with a gun belt and dusty boots. And yet it felt real, honest. Over the next week, Clara and Wyatt met a few more times, always in public spaces or at her apartment with careful boundaries. They talked about everything: childhood memories, favorite books, dreams for the future. Clara began to notice that he listened with genuine interest, never interrupting or judging. And Wyatt noticed that Clara, beneath her organized and cautious exterior, had a sharp sense of humor and a deep kindness that few people truly saw. Despite this growing connection, Clara struggled internally. She had spent years crafting a life of certainty, and Wyatt represented unpredictability. He was strong, independent, and self-sufficient, a man who could take care of himself and others in ways she had never needed to consider. She worried that such differences might make a relationship impossible. Yet, every time she thought of pushing him away, a quiet voice inside whispered, "Maybe this is exactly what you need." One evening, Clara found herself walking past the small park near her apartment. She paused as she saw Wyatt helping an elderly man carry groceries from a car to his home. Without hesitation, he lifted heavy bags with care, speaking kindly to the man as he placed each item on the porch. Clara watched, feeling a warmth in her chest she hadn't expected. It wasn't the dramatic gesture she had feared from a cowboy. It was simple, thoughtful, and real. Later that week, Clara received a call from the matchmaking service, asking how her meetings with Wyatt were going. She hesitated, unsure what to say. "He's different," she admitted, "but in a good way. I think I just need time." The service agreed, encouraging her to continue meeting him at her own pace. Clara ended the call, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. She knew that moving forward would require trust, a kind of trust she had not given lightly in the past. One rainy afternoon, Clara found herself in a cafe, sipping tea and reading a book, when she noticed Wyatt enter. He shook off his coat and looked around, spotting her with a small smile. She felt her heart race, not from fear this time, but anticipation. "May I join you?" he asked, holding up a paper cup of coffee. Clara hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, please." As they sat together, the rain tapping gently against the windows, their conversation flowed naturally. They spoke of simple things, favorite foods, childhood memories, and moments that had shaped them. Clara found herself laughing freely, something she hadn't done with a stranger in years. She realized that Wyatt had a way of making the ordinary feel special. Over the following days, Clara's perception of Wyatt continued to evolve. She learned that his cowboy exterior was only one part of him. He was responsible, dependable, and kind. He didn't boast or demand attention. He simply lived his life with integrity. And gradually, she began to see that the initial shock of their meeting had overshadowed the qualities that truly mattered. One afternoon, while Clara was organizing a small reading event at the library, she received a note slipped under the door of her office. It was from Wyatt in neat handwriting. "I hope your day is as bright as your smile. If you need a hand with anything, I'm nearby." Clara smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time. It wasn't just attraction, it was respect, trust, and the beginning of something real. Despite her growing feelings, Clara remained cautious. She reminded herself that she needed to proceed slowly. But she also realized that Wyatt's presence had brought unexpected joy into her life. She began looking forward to their meetings, cherishing the moments when they shared stories, laughter, and quiet companionship. Then, one evening, Clara received a phone call from her younger sister, who lived in another town. Her sister's voice trembled as she explained that a friend of hers had been in a minor accident and needed someone responsible to accompany them to the hospital. Without hesitation, Clara thought of Wyatt. She knew that if she asked him, he would help, and he did. He arrived promptly, helped her drive safely, and offered calm reassurance the entire way. Watching him handle the situation with patience and care, Clara felt a sense of relief and admiration she hadn't anticipated. Wyatt wasn't just strong and capable, he was compassionate and selfless. She realized that the man she had initially feared was someone she could rely on, not just in ordinary moments, but in moments that truly mattered. As days turned into weeks, Clara and Wyatt continued to spend time together. They explored the town, visited the local park, and even attended a small community event. Each experience, no matter how ordinary, became a shared memory that brought them closer. Clara began to understand that life wasn't about sticking to rigid expectations. It was about embracing surprises and recognizing the goodness in people. Slowly, she let go of her fears. She stopped focusing on the differences between them and started appreciating the ways they complemented each other. Wyatt's patience balanced her caution. Her careful planning softened his impulsive moments. Together, they discovered a rhythm that felt natural and comforting. By the end of the second month, Clara realized that her feelings for Wyatt had grown deeper than she had anticipated. She admired his strength, his kindness, and the quiet determination with which he lived his life. And for the first time in years, she felt hopeful about the possibility of love, real, imperfect, and unexpectedly wonderful. Clara's life, once predictable and organized, had opened up to new possibilities. She understood that Wyatt was more than the armed cowboy she had initially feared. He was a man of substance, integrity, and heart. And though she still valued her routines and careful planning, she had learned that sometimes, life's most meaningful moments come from the unexpected, the unscripted, and the genuine connections we allow ourselves to embrace. Clara had tried to ignore her growing feelings for Wyatt, but as the days passed, it became impossible. She found herself thinking about him at odd times, while walking home from work, while reading a book, even while making tea in the quiet of her apartment. His presence, once startling and overwhelming, had settled into her mind like a quiet, comforting rhythm. Yet, despite the warmth and curiosity that he had brought into her life, Clara still had questions about the man behind the rugged exterior. She wanted to understand him fully, to see if the kindness, patience, and bravery he had shown were truly a part of who he was, or simply moments designed to impress her. She wanted clarity before allowing her heart to open completely. One morning, she decided to take the first step. She sent him a message, keeping it simple and careful. "Would you like to meet at the old train station this evening? I want to talk." Wyatt responded quickly, his message friendly and respectful. "I'd be happy to meet. I'll see you there." The train station was an old brick building on the edge of town. Its wooden benches were worn smooth by years of passengers waiting, and the faint smell of iron and coal lingered in the air. Clara had loved visiting the station as a child, fascinated by the trains that arrived and departed, each carrying people to new places and adventures. She hoped that meeting Wyatt there would give them both a neutral space, somewhere familiar yet meaningful, where conversation could flow without interruption. When she arrived, she noticed Wyatt immediately. He was leaning casually against one of the benches, his hat tilted back slightly, boots resting on the cobblestone. He smiled warmly when he saw her, and she felt a flutter of nervous excitement. Her pulse quickened, not from fear but anticipation. "Hello, Clara," Wyatt said, his voice calm but full of warmth. "I hope I didn't keep you waiting." "You're on time," she replied, trying to sound casual but failing. "That counts for something." They walked together along the platform, the train tracks stretching far into the distance. The sky was painted in soft shades of orange and pink as the sun began to set, reflecting off the steel rails. There was a peacefulness in the air, broken only by the distant whistle of a train far down the line. "I wanted to meet here," Clara said finally, her voice quiet. "Somewhere neutral, somewhere meaningful. I like this place. It reminds me of simpler times." Wyatt nodded. "I like it too. It's calm. You can think, you can be yourself." Clara hesitated, then spoke the question that had been lingering in her mind for weeks. "Wyatt, the other day, with all the little things you've done, helping others, the notes, the gestures, why? Why are you doing this for me?" Wyatt looked at her seriously. "Because I want to, not to impress, not to win you over, but because I think you deserve someone who listens, who cares. And I want to see if we could make something real together, if you're willing." Clara felt her heart beat faster. She wanted to respond, to speak the words that had been building inside her, but before she could, a sudden noise startled them. A small child, no more than 6 or 7 years old, ran past them, crying and calling out. Clara instinctively stepped forward, fear gripping her chest. The child had wandered too close to the edge of the platform where the tracks lay dangerously near. Clara's mind raced as she shouted, "Stop! Be careful!" Wyatt didn't hesitate. In a blur of movement, he sprinted forward and scooped the child into his arms, moving them safely back from the edge just as the warning bell of a train echoed across the station. Clara froze, her hands trembling. Her heart pounded in her chest, not from fear this time, but from awe. The child clung to Wyatt, sobbing quietly while he soothed them with gentle words. "It's okay, you're safe now. No one's going to hurt you." Clara stood there, unable to speak, feeling an overwhelming mix of emotions. The man she had first screamed at for being an armed cowboy had just risked his own safety to save a stranger, and he had done it calmly, efficiently, and without a hint of showiness. Once the child's parents arrived, rushing from the nearby parking lot, Wyatt handed the child over gently, explaining what had happened with quiet authority. The parents were grateful, tearful, and full of relief. They thanked him profusely, and he simply nodded, brushing it off as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Clara, still standing a few feet away, finally found her voice. "Wyatt, she trailed off, unsure how to put into words the mixture of fear, relief, and admiration that filled her. Wyatt turned to her, a soft smile on his face. "It's all right, Clara. Are you okay?" She nodded slowly, her throat tight. I've never seen anyone like you." "I mean, I've read stories about bravery, but seeing it, it's different. Real, honest." Wyatt looked at her earnestly. "I'm just me, I do what I can, and I care about people, that's all." Clara took a deep breath, feeling something shift inside her. The fear, the shock, and even the anger from their first meeting melted away in the face of this moment. She realized that she had been judging him on appearances, on assumptions, and on what she thought her life should be. She had been so focused on control and predictability that she had overlooked the real strength, kindness, and integrity of the man standing before her. "Wyatt," she said softly, stepping closer, "I think I've been wrong about you, about all of this." Wyatt tilted his head slightly, waiting patiently, not pressing, not pushing. "I judged you too quickly," Clara continued. "I was scared because you were different from what I expected, but now I see you for who you really are, and it's remarkable." Wyatt's eyes softened. "Thank you, Clara. That means a lot." For a moment, they stood in silence, the train station quiet except for the distant hum of an arriving train. Clara felt a sense of clarity she hadn't experienced in years. The man she had feared, the man she had thought was chaotic and unpredictable, was someone she could trust. Someone whose courage and heart were beyond what she could have imagined. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in rich hues of gold and purple, Clara felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that life didn't always go according to plan. Sometimes it presented challenges, surprises, and even dangers, but in those moments the truth about people was revealed. And Wyatt's truth had just been shown in the most undeniable way possible. She took a step closer to him, her hand brushing against his. "Wyatt, I want to know more about you, about us, if you're willing." He smiled gently, taking her hand in his. "I'm more than willing, Clara, more than willing." The sound of the approaching train reminded them both of the passage of time. The world around them moved forward, and yet in that moment everything felt still. Clara realized that she no longer feared unpredictability. She no longer measured her life by strict routines or expectations. She understood that the moments that mattered, the ones that revealed character, courage, and heart, were the ones that couldn't be planned. As the train pulled into the station, Clara and Wyatt walked together along the platform, side by side. Their conversation was light at first, but filled with warmth and laughter. They spoke of small things, of dreams, of hopes, and of the unexpected ways life could surprise a person. By the time the train left, carrying its passengers to destinations unknown, Clara felt a profound sense of gratitude. She was grateful for this moment, for the chance to see the truth, and for the realization that life's surprises could be beautiful when embraced with an open heart. For Clara, the armed cowboy was no longer a figure of fear or misunderstanding. He was someone real, someone brave, and someone kind. And for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future with him. A future not planned, not perfectly organized, but honest, unpredictable, and full of possibility. That evening, as they parted ways near the station's exit, Clara felt a lightness she hadn't felt in years. She knew that this was only the beginning. She knew that challenges and uncertainties would come, but she also knew that with Wyatt by her side, she could face them with courage, trust, and even joy. Walking home, she reflected on the day's events. The fear, the shock, the moment of danger, all had revealed a truth she could not ignore. Wyatt's character, his bravery, and his genuine kindness had broken through the walls she had built around herself. And in that, Clara found a new understanding, that love, trust, and connection were not about appearances or expectations. They were about seeing people for who they truly were and being willing to embrace them. For the first time, she didn't feel the need to control everything. She allowed herself to feel, to hope, and to trust. And she knew, deep in her heart, that this train station, once just a place of departures and arrivals, had become the site of a new beginning, a place where fear was replaced by understanding and hesitation was replaced by connection. After the events at the train station, Clara felt a mixture of relief, awe, and a quiet excitement she hadn't experienced in years. Wyatt had not only shown courage, but also a calm, genuine heart, qualities that had slowly begun to dismantle the walls Clara had built around herself. Yet, even as she felt these new emotions, she knew that the journey toward trust and a real connection wasn't over. There were conversations to be had, truths to share, and steps to take together before they could truly understand what they meant to each other. The very next day, Clara found herself thinking about Wyatt constantly. Every time she walked through the park or browsed the library shelves, her mind returned to that moment on the platform. The sharp whistle of the train, the small child running toward danger, and Wyatt's swift, fearless action. It was one thing to read about courage in books or see it in movies, but witnessing it firsthand had left an indelible mark on her. She realized that character could not be faked. It could only be revealed through actions, and Wyatt's actions had spoken volumes. Despite her growing admiration, Clara felt nervous. She wondered how she would approach the conversation about their relationship. She wanted to be honest, to express her feelings, yet she feared saying the wrong thing and frightening him away. Her evenings were spent pacing her apartment, writing notes she would ultimately tear up, and rehearsing sentences she never spoke out loud. She wanted clarity, not games, understanding, not assumptions. Wyatt, on his side, remained patient. He understood that Clara was cautious by nature, and he respected her pace. He continued his small acts of kindness, leaving carefully chosen notes, baking simple treats, and occasionally walking by her apartment to offer a friendly wave. He never rushed, never pressured, and never made demands, qualities that slowly earned her trust even more. Finally, after several days of contemplation, Clara decided that she could no longer wait. She called him, her voice slightly trembling but firm. "Wyatt, can we meet today?" "I want to talk, really talk about us." Wyatt's response was immediate and reassuring. "Of course, Clara, where should we meet?" "I'll meet you at the park," she replied, "near the fountain." He agreed, and shortly after they found themselves seated on a bench beside the gently flowing water. The air was crisp but comfortable, filled with the scent of grass and the distant aroma of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Children played in the distance, and couples strolled along the winding paths, It was peaceful, a perfect setting for a conversation that could change the course of both their lives. Clara took a deep breath, her hands resting on her lap. "Wyatt, I've been thinking a lot about you, about us, about everything that happened at the train station." Wyatt turned to her, his eyes calm and attentive. "I've been thinking about it too, Clara. It was unexpected, but I'm glad it happened." "It showed me a lot about who you are too." Clara nodded slowly, collecting her thoughts. "I want to be honest with you. At first, I was scared. I judged you based on appearances, and I was overwhelmed. I thought I couldn't trust you or that we were too different." Wyatt smiled gently. "I understand. I expected nothing less. You had every right to be cautious, but you didn't stay in fear. You observed, you listened, and you began to see me for who I am. That means a lot." Clara felt her throat tighten with emotion. She had spent years protecting herself, keeping people at a distance and avoiding vulnerability. Yet, here was someone who had earned her attention not through words or promises, but through deeds, patience, and honesty. "I realized," she continued, "that I've been holding myself back expecting life to fit a perfect plan. But life, it doesn't work that way. It surprises us. It challenges us. And sometimes, it brings people into our lives who we never expected, but who turn out to be exactly what we needed." Wyatt reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "I feel the same, Clara. I never imagined I'd meet someone like you, someone thoughtful, kind, and incredibly perceptive. You've shown me patience, understanding, and a willingness to see beyond what's on the surface. And I want to see where this could go, with you." Clara's heart leapt. She had expected caution and careful words, but what she received was honesty, warmth, and a shared desire to explore something real. She smiled, feeling a lightness she hadn't felt in years. "I want that too," she said softly. "I want to try. I want to see if we can be more than just initial impressions and small gestures." Wyatt's smile widened, and for the first time, Clara felt the weight of fear lift completely. They sat in companionable silence, holding hands, watching the sun cast golden hues across the park. The world seemed calm and steady, yet full of infinite possibility. As the weeks passed, Clara and Wyatt's relationship grew naturally. They spent time exploring the town together, cooking meals, and even taking short trips to nearby countryside areas where Wyatt could show her the landscapes he loved to sketch. Each moment revealed more about their personalities, values, and hopes. Clara learned that Wyatt's strength was balanced by tenderness, and Wyatt discovered that Clara's careful nature was paired with curiosity, humor, and a willingness to embrace life in small, meaningful ways. One day, Wyatt invited Clara to his home on the outskirts of town, a modest farmhouse surrounded by open fields. Clara had been cautious at first, unsure if she would feel comfortable outside her familiar environment. Yet the moment she stepped onto the porch, she felt a sense of warmth and welcome. The house was cozy, filled with the scent of fresh bread, and the quiet hum of life lived with intention and care. Wyatt introduced her to his younger sister, whom he cared for deeply. Clara was touched by the gentle relationship between them. Wyatt's protective yet nurturing nature was evident in every gesture. She realized that the man she had once feared was not only brave, but deeply responsible, compassionate, and capable of sustaining meaningful relationships. As they spent the evening together, Clara reflected on her journey, from skepticism and fear to understanding and trust. She realized that love wasn't about matching checklists or expecting perfection. It was about seeing the truth in someone's actions, embracing the unexpected, and allowing oneself to feel deeply without reservation. Weeks turned into months, and Clara found herself laughing more freely, feeling lighter, and cherishing the moments she spent with Wyatt. They faced small challenges together, as all couples do, but each obstacle became an opportunity to strengthen their bond. Clara discovered joy in spontaneity, and Wyatt found peace in the quiet moments she treasured. Together, they created a rhythm that was uniquely theirs, a balance of excitement and stability, adventure and calm. One sunny afternoon, as they walked through the town square, Clara realized just how much her life had changed. The fear, hesitation, and rigid expectations that once defined her existence had given way to trust, connection, and a sense of possibility. Wyatt had become more than the cowboy she had initially feared. He was a partner, a confidant, and a person who had earned her heart through patience, kindness, and integrity. Clara turned to Wyatt, her eyes reflecting gratitude and affection. "I never imagined my life could be like this," she admitted. I thought I needed control, order, and yet meeting you, getting to know you, has taught me that the most meaningful parts of life are the ones we don't plan. They're the ones we embrace." Wyatt squeezed her hand gently. "And I'm grateful for that, Clara. I never expected to meet someone like you either, but now I can't imagine my life without you. You've brought balance, insight, and warmth into my life. You've made me see that love is about trust, understanding, and shared moments, even the unexpected ones." Clara smiled, feeling the truth of his words resonate in her heart. For the first time, she understood that real connection wasn't about appearances, timing, or planning. It was about honesty, patience, and the willingness to see people fully, including their strengths, vulnerabilities, and actions. Their bond continued to strengthen over time, built on trust, mutual respect, and a shared willingness to embrace life's surprises. They celebrated small victories, comforted each other during challenges, and explored the depths of companionship in ways that were authentic and heartfelt. Clara discovered a joy she had never known, one that came from understanding, acceptance, and the courage to open her heart fully. Months later, as they sat together at the park where so many of their meaningful conversations had taken place, Clara reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a first shocking encounter at her doorstep to moments of bravery at the train station, to shared experiences that revealed character and kindness, she realized that love had arrived not through expectation, but through truth. She leaned against Wyatt, feeling the steady warmth of his presence. "I think we found something rare," she whispered, "something real, and I'm glad we gave it a chance." Wyatt smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I feel the same, Clara. Real, true, and unexpected, and I wouldn't have it any other way." In that moment, surrounded by the gentle hum of the park, the distant laughter of children, and the golden glow of the setting sun, Clara understood fully that life's best moments were often the ones we never expected. And in Wyatt, she had found not only courage and kindness, but also a partner who could walk beside her through all the surprises and uncertainties that lay ahead. They stood together, hand in hand, watching the world move around them. Clara no longer feared unpredictability, she welcomed it. She no longer doubted the truth of character, she cherished it. And she no longer questioned whether love could arrive in unexpected forms. She embraced it fully with gratitude, joy, and an open heart. For Clara and Wyatt, the journey that had begun with confusion, fear, and a misjudged first impression had blossomed into a story of trust, bravery, and love. And as they walked together into the quiet evening, they knew that the future held challenges, adventures, and surprises, but also the certainty of each other's presence, support, and unwavering care. In the end, Clara realized that the life she had meticulously planned was nothing compared to the richness, depth, and unexpected beauty of the life she was building now, with Wyatt by her side. The armed cowboy she had once feared had become her partner, her confidant, and the truest companion she could ever hope to find. And together they stepped forward into the unknown, ready to embrace every moment with courage, trust, and love.